All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Historic Area Commission meeting. It is Thursday, May 8th, 2025. If we could start by having each commissioner state their name to establish a quorum.
Kevin Wade,
Lisa Doak,
Sarah Hayward Olivas.
Michael Westman,
Cynthia Batty, and Layla Hammerin, architect.
And just to note that Jeff Bergstrom, building official, is also present. With that, we have a quorum. Let's start really quickly with just reviewing the minutes. I didn't see anything that needed correction except for one little thing, which is on page 4 at the very top when it says Ms. Hayward Olivas recommended that any exterior lighting fixtures be submitted for review as well. The recommendation was that any exterior lighting fixtures, signage, or hardware be included with the resubmission for the tier 1 review or as a separate application, as those elements they all need to be reviewed, since they were missing from the application that we reviewed.
Do you want me to delete for review as well? Or do you want me to just add that, or do you want me to delete any of the existing sentence?
I think you can just add for review and just add exterior lighting fixtures, signage, or hardware.
Okay.
Are there any other corrections that anyone has?
No, I just want to say thank you for numbers on the pages.
You're welcome.
It helps a lot. Thank you. A small thought, in Word, you can have it say page X of X, which is the total number of pages.
Would you like
helpful
that?
too, yeah. Thank you. You always do a nice job, thank you.
Would someone like to make a motion except you?
Yeah, I have
as
to
you
abstain.
you have to abstain.
second the motion.
Oh, someone didn't make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on April 10th, 2025. Oh, with the correction as provided by Ms. Hayward Olivas.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Motion approved. Okay, now moving on to applications. The first one is 55 West Fifth Street, Elizabeth and Mervyn Zubaka. So I guess we should start with, did you want to give the review initially?
Yeah, just a quick summary of why we're, okay. This is, and again, I'm not sure if the term is used in English, but it's more like a regularization because the application came in, but the work had already been initiated. When we did the review, it hadn't been aware, so we'd asked for more pictures because anything needs to be replaced, it needs to be demonstrated that the conditions are such an extent that they need to be replaced. And from the observation of the pictures that were included in the application, it certainly wasn't clear that the whole porch required replacement. And whenever there's a question like that, there's a process by which I can also come to the site and then, double check and look at the conditions. So, post facto, I have been to the site, and I know that once you realize you should have had an application, you stop, and pretty much everything is gone and replaced. You just have stopped the final coating it. So the materials used to replace are wood, which are appropriate. But there's no way to exactly know if the full replacement was warranted, because based on the pictures, there's some movement, but those, wood can actually be sort of reset or tightened. So the status of this is, yes, the materials do conform with the guidelines and standards, but the work was done before there could be any determination whether it was warranted and thus would have been approved prior to work being done. So, and that's why if this has been, for example, some repairs in wood, and I come take a look at it and determine that, because originally I thought it was some planks, that could have been as a tier 1. it's coming to Hack because it's kind of retrofitting the work to an application, so this is where Hack has to review how they want to move forward. I will say, for their credit, the work has stopped. You know, it hasn't continued as once they were made aware of the fact they should have been a permit. But beyond that, that's just more for context as opposed to, but yeah, everything is, you know, the stairs. I mean, I'm sure you've all driven by. I came by and took pictures. I knocked, but there was nobody there that morning, which was not an issue because it's all exterior.
Norman, were you aware that your house is in the historic district?
You want me to stand?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I was aware for sure.
Okay.
It was, so the whole work started with, in front of our house, as you walk out, I don't know, 5, 6 of those planks were deteriorated, and the biggest concern for us was like the paint was chipping off and then kids were playing with it.
Yeah.
So we were like concerned about that, and I tried sanding to remove it also, just, you know, to buy some time, but that was harder because there's like 3 layers of paint on it. So I was like, okay, let me try to replace this. And then, but because there are these, help me with the name of the boards, they're called.
Tongue and groove?
Yeah, so they're all connected, kind of, so it started off, let's replace these 5, and then we realized probably just might as well replace them all. So we submitted applications for repair, and it was tier 1, but then we were like, is this a whole thing? We're like, well, we would like it to be, right, at this point. So that's why the repair versus the whole porch was changed, I guess, from initial, because this was back in March when we were considered as tier 1, but not on agenda, and then got moved for this meeting in the meantime. So yeah, I was aware, but ironically, as I'm doing the work, I'm like, hold on, we thought the repair would be okay just to do without, because it's the same material. It was just replacement of the thing, but then we figured repair probably needs to be packed, and then I stopped, panicked, all that stuff. Like, you know, so.
But there was no revisiting from the application to modify it and resubmit, say, we actually now want to replace the whole thing.
So I will say that I was picking up materials from the city hall, and Marika asked me, is this a repair or is this a whole thing? It's like, it's a whole thing, and I just assumed she made a note in the application that it was.
So,
I
but,
did not hear any information back that I need to submit anything.
but then,
in addition to
did you go, so just for the, and
Mhm.
this is not a blame, just for me to understand the sequence, did you go ahead and replace everything before getting approved? Because that's the sequence I have. I don't have an approval of the full replacement of the.
Repair of the several boards was done before I even realized the application needed to be done. But then I had 10 more boards whole that I needed to fill in. So I just ended up filling that out.
Yeah, so the full
So
replacement
it's
was
not-
done even though the application wasn't approved.
Correct, yeah, correct.
And so
yes.
that's
Yeah,
just for the sequence and the
Yeah.
context, yeah.
correct.
So was there actual bowing and deterioration of the boards, or was it just all the peeling and splintering paint?
Both, but especially the ones that I submitted in a picture right in front of our house. The ones on the deck weren't necessarily in bad shape
Was there,
as the ones up front, but figured,
was there like give or bowing when you
Yeah, for
walked
sure.
on them?
Yeah, even the entire deck is it's like elevated from the boards, like especially on the edges, so. But yeah, the ones that you see pictures, like those I was able to take out with my hand, like I did not need any equipment to like lift them, that's how loose they were. at the time.
Now, the boards were loose, but the boards, when you picked them up, they didn't disintegrate in your hand.
No, not,
So the
yes,
boards
there's
themselves, it
no,
was just tightening, but the
I'm not
boards,
falling through on that, yes, correct,
Yes.
yeah.
so that's, because
Mhm.
when we talk about deterioration, they're all, they're different levels.
Mhm.
And that's sort of one of the level that one looks at when you think about deterioration, particularly with tongue and groove, which they're used to sort of move.
Mhm.
And, tightening is not something they typically to be done.
I would just say, first of all, thank you for coming in, and, again, this process is never to make anybody feel singled out, we'd like to reassure everyone that we're here as a resource, and we're not here we don't bite, except
No,
for.
I made a
Michael,
mistake, that's
but
as
okay.
honest as I
So
can
he's
be.
sitting next to me.
So,
I would just say for, just in the future, I think sometimes, especially with when we're dealing with older buildings and things, I think one of the kind of myths that's sort of, or something that goes around town a lot is that there's an idea that if you're just replacing something with wood, then it's okay.
Mhm.
But as we discussed, it's not just the replacement of the materials, as Layla has said, it's the materiality as well. You know, old wood, like old materials look a certain way.
Mhm.
And, you know, obviously because it's done, we can't, right, we can't do an evaluation. But in many cases, people think that they need to replace everything, but and most of the time, old growth wood, even if there is paint peeling off, or if it looks rough, it can be planed down, and there's actually quite,
Sorry about that.
no, that's fine. You know, the structural integrity of the wood in many cases is still, it can be salvaged. So just keep that in mind in the future. If there's something that looks like, if it's questionable, Layla can always come out and do
Yeah.
a site visit and, you know,
Poke and prod and
yeah,
double check.
and then, you know, you can just cover all your bases that way.
I'm not doing this again.
It's okay.
Once.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not,
it's,
I may prepare stuff, but I'm saying I'm not doing this again where,
Yeah.
you know, I forget, so I learned my, you know, lesson that any question that I have is really like first stop and anyways.
No, and we're, again,
Twice.
the other thing I would just say is, have you seen in the guidelines and standards at the back of each chapter? So the porch section, I think, is on page 111. And at the back of each chapter, we have a section, it's called supporting documentation. And it just details the list of kind of most everything that we need. So picture wise and product specifications. And so I like to point people to that because I think it kind of breaks down everything a little bit more. So it's not quite as overwhelming when you're thinking, you know, what do I need to include? The information is all there. And then if you have any questions from there, you can always, you know, call Marika or
Yeah.
reach out to Layla and we can, you know, we can get everything sorted. So
Mhm.
please never feel like you can't, you know.
Yeah, we went back and forth on, I submitted pictures of the product that we were using that was, you know, same, I suppose. And then we did not submit paint like sample, but I wrote in the Sherwin-Williams and a number. But I saw the other application tonight having a circled out picture, so my apologies for that, but it's a dark blue navy.
But half doesn't control colors.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but
Sadly.
it wasn't clear, so I was,
Sadly.
yeah. So anyways, but yeah, then there was an email from Marika asking
Yeah.
to send a picture of a porch, then,
Yeah.
you know, and the part that was trying to be repaired at the time, so.
And
So
just,
we went back and forth, so I mean.
just for that information, for example, when I went to, if ever you have to do something else, like when I went and took a look, what I do is I take an overall, then I take a close up this area, then I take a close up this there. It's just what you do typically if you're illustrating something for your kids.
Mhm.
The big picture, the whole, and then the detail. If there's a warping, the detail and things like that, because then if you, for whatever which you might need to do, for the railing, for the piers, for the windows, anything like that. Just the more we have, and then we can determine if, you know, a site visit is part, which was pretty quickly organized through Marika.
Okay.
And one other thing, since it's a teaching opportunity for you here, being on city council, a lot of times when people come in with projects where they want to replace stuff, and I'm not saying this is the case with yours, it actually saves them money to repair it rather than replace it.
Mhm.
And in some cases, it saves them very significant money. And they turn around and say, wow, yeah, that was actually okay. So the idea is not to impose you know, arbitrary rules on people. It's obviously for the preservation, but what people find is that it actually can in some cases save them money. So so I just wanted you to be aware of that. Because, you know, people criticize the Historic Area Commission all the time. And the idea here is not to be arbitrary or mean, it's to keep our city looking like the beautiful historic place that it is. So I just wanted to make that point.
Mhm.
And as someone, as you know, has invested a great deal of money in my property, I haven't always liked everything they've said, but at the end, I've been happy with the results.
Yeah, we were in the same like process when we were starting, like we were just like, so two of our neighbors replaced theirs, I don't know, a year ago, and the other neighbor a couple years ago. And they were just the regular boards, not this style. And we're like, yeah, let's just do that, right? But then we're like, hold on, then we looked at the guide and said, whenever possible, repair or replace with the same material. So we looked into that, and that's why we ended up switching to this. And, so we're trying to preserve the same look that it has, because our neighbor has the same, so our consistency was.
And we do appreciate that because these may be the original boards to the house, because that was the style that was popular at the time your house was built, with the tongue and groove versus the traditional plank. And, same thing to piggyback on what Cynthia said, especially as far as porches go. Some of the new builds that were early 21st century, we're already reviewing porch replacements for them because they're using new growth pressure treated wood versus old growth wood, where some of our houses are like almost 300 years old, and we have the original wood on the house. So sometimes you just really can't get better quality, and sometimes it's worth that extra sand or the extra quality paint.
We've seen the same with window replacements, where original windows, instead of, repairing them, they've replaced them, and there are some that
Very, very
ones that,
replacement.
that are, less than 30 years old that are already being replaced. So, there are a lot of resources online too, if you look for them. And it's a very exciting world.
It took a lot to find the same width and thickness of the boards to to match what was there.
I have a question. Do you know the age of your home?
20s, I believe. 1920s.
That's easy to
100
know.
years old.
Yeah, so if you don't mind looking parcel, that might be.
And do you know the age of the decking you wanted?
I don't know, but there's
was that
three
the
different-
original, or was it replaced in 85? Or
I don't know. We
2003?
bought a house 7 or 8 years ago, and it was there at the time, but there's three different green, red, and blue other paints on it that I could see staggered on each other. So there's been several maintenance efforts in the past.
55
Most of the old growth trees, in my understanding of American forestry, were cleared out by 1900, 1910. You see aerial photographs of this county, this area from the 1920s. You are very difficult to find a single tree outside of the town. As well as all the white oak and up in the Midwest was cleared out back in the late 1800s. That was beautiful stuff, but by 1920, I don't know what they were using. Just an observation. We like to assume that old growth is existing. Maybe not.
Well, no, I think we know in windows and things, like, I think it was before, 1950, we find a lot of old growth timber,
It's just because the general stock overall nationwide, not just locally, and then the more recent wood, it's less and less. And I know the younger wood is kind of worth putting, but we just have a stock.
Is it?
55 West Fifth Street is late 19th century. Half brick,
Yeah.
2-story, 6-bay, flat roof, double house with bracketed cornice and added facade porch.
Late
Yes.
90s, you said?
Yeah.
Late 19th century. Yes, it's possible that the porch was added in the early 20th century. So-
But that's where the multiple layers of paint also can impact it.
There's a database on the hack page on the city website. We call it a database. It's a badly organized Excel spreadsheet.
Well,
It's a database. Excel is a database
No,
of
it's
sorts.
the listing, it's everything from the National
Yeah,
Historic Landmark District.
I
is on
understand, but
that,
it's not necessarily in order, so it can be a bit of a pain in the butt.
Well, it correlates with the application for the landmark.
Yeah.
Historic District.
It relates there.
Every number corresponds with its corresponding number on the application, so that's why it seems not
Okay.
appropriate, but they're trying to remain consistent with the application. That's why that
All
happened.
right. Anyway, now you know.
I'm not looking at you guys.
No,
There's a
No, no,
reason.
we, that's perfectly fine. So Leila, I think, I mean,
The summary for me is I cannot make a recommendation because the work was done before I could look at it, so I cannot judge it on its merits. And so it's more of a, like an administrative finding and, you know, other issues about the work be done before the permit. That's kind of like a city enforcement thing.
Um,
Principle, I think we should approve it, but if there's a permitting issue, that's in Jeff's domain. You know,
do you
what
have
we
a
face
record?
constantly, yours is a genuine mistake, I accept that, but so many of the ones that come before us are not.
Understand.
And,
I can't tell you what to do, so do whatever you're supposed to do, honestly, so.
No, we'll let it rest for a while. You need to come before.
Yes, which is it. I don't know if they can do it, of course. You were saying we'll let it rest.
You paid for, you paid a double permit fee?
I don't think that, I
I'll
mean, we
make-
have another application in for next month for fence that we have a contractor for, but.
Yeah, I'll make sure you pay a double permit fee and just follow it. Okay?
so we can proceed with the approval, I think. Would someone like to make a motion?
sure, I'll make one. I move that we approve the application for a deck wood replacement in kind for 55 West Fifth Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All not in favor?
So you just have to leave the children here and we'll let you go.
I abstain.
Motion approved, or with one abstention, thank you. I don't.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Sorry for the chaos.
Okay, moving on to number 46 East Third Street. And you are welcome to take a seat here, just because it makes it a little bit easier when we're talking through plans.
Here?
Yep, that's just fine,
Okay.
yeah.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I'm your neighbor down the street.
Ah, great.
We bought a beautiful house.
It is, it's a gorgeous house and I love the neighborhood.
This has nothing to do with your application, but I will say the paneling under your staircase, that like reeded detail, I think I've only ever seen that in one other house. Like it's a very unique detail for a house from that period, I think, so.
I think it's actually probably, even though it began in 1838, I think it's added to over a couple.
Yeah,
different
like
years.
in the back, yeah,
Yeah.
but in the staircase in the front hall, that's a really cool detail that's there. Anyway, would you like to tell us a little bit about your application?
Yes, the application is to put in a pathway in the back, and it's really an ADA accommodation, because the person I live with is 87 and she has a wheelchair, and there's no way that I can get her around because for some reason someone put gravel in the middle and I can't get over the gravel with a wheelchair. So, so that's why we put in stone and put in slate, but it's fine, you know, if you, not stone, I'm sorry, brick and slate. But if you want all brick, or if you prefer all slate, or, you know, whatever material, I'm willing to do whatever. We haven't purchased the material. I just want to make sure that I'm meeting whatever you want. Okay, so there should have been a drawing.
There is in two
Okay.
drawings in here.
And that's part of it. And the other thing is I would like to, install a koi pond. We currently have a koi pond in Baltimore, and I'd like to have the fish are very relaxing. So,
They're very friendly
Yeah.
fish too.
yeah, they,
Leila, yeah, that was your summary.
Yes, so I reviewed it, thank you, it's very complete, very clear with a lot of information,
and I did bring pictures of the backyard as it is now, if anybody wants.
so, I mean, the thought of doing a combination of hardscaping and putting the koi pond, that is fine for, you know, design guidelines and standards. We had asked for some clarification on the materials, and I think that was added, you know, with the plan. The only, and the cut sheet for the bricks, so it says bricks sort of to match existing. The one thing is when we looked at the data for the brick that was put in here, it's more of a, it's not as close to the Glengarry 52 double D, 53 double D. That one is more like molded, and it looks more like the brick that you see around the town.
Okay.
The one that he put in that I looked up, it's more like a very square 4x8 real size. And it looks more like what you'd see in sort of a newer development. So I think the
Okay,
recommendation.
you tell me where to go and.
Yeah,
we'll go wherever
and-
we need to.
And I would say, I mean, my recommendation would be to approve it as presented, just with a caveat that the brick component be the typical Glengarry 50, you know, the double D.
I'm in.
It's too affecting. Yeah, I mean, that was my thing.
Glengarry's are out of stock until at least July. I don't know why, but the Shenandoah brick was previously approved.
I mean, if it's another brick that's
I
not the
don't
one that
think-
he
I
put in
can't-
here.
I
that's
don't
all.
think you could tell them. They're just, we've used it, we've permitted them before. And,
But that's, no, I mean, but the one that is here is not the Shenandoah.
no.
Okay,
If-
you're
if
recommending
we-
another one versus the
Right,
Glengarry,
if we-
yeah.
Instead of just specifying.
Oh, yeah.
Specify the Glengarry 52 or equal, because, we're,
Yeah.
we're paving
And then, what-
handicap ramps right now, and we can't.
and I think what we can do with that, then the caveat is something Glengarry or something. And that can be just submitted for, you know, a tier 1 review and approval, so that way we're all good. That could be a good turnaround.
Okay, and where do we get? this?
Delaware brick.
Delaware.
Delaware,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And your contractor should know that. I mean, he's based in Delaware, so.
So did you get the number down that Jeff mentioned? 'Cause
Yeah.
You said Shenandoah brick.
It's a Shenandoah, and if you go to Delaware brick, they'll tell
They'll
you
have it, yeah.
that this is the other brick we previously.
He was in Newcastle.
And,
Okay.
and I saw them compared on the ground in several places today, on
Yeah,
top
they're-
of existing sidewalks.
They're really good with
They're
matching.
Yeah,
brick,
they're
Okay,
matching,
yeah,
so.
they're very helpful.
But I don't
and-
know what's wrong with Glengarry, but they seem to be swamped. They had a big order come in January, gone, and they said next one in July.
Well, I think a lot of people are also
California.
stocking up.
Yeah,
There's,
Yeah, I
there's
think-
California and they're
Mhm.
stocking up because of the current situation.
Yeah.
So we've had people, I know contractors who sort of tripled their orders.
yeah, I've already bought all the Hendricks in the state. I'm just.
Gin flu.
Priorities.
Exactly.
I think this all looks, I think this all looks good. Yeah, I will say that even with the previous owner of the house, we were also very a little perplexed as to why the gravel, it seemed like a very odd choice, like to have the brick and then the gravel and then the brick, yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to walk on. It's
No,
definitely
it's
you
not.
can't push a wheelchair through it. I
No.
guarantee.
Well, the house had 2 owners for a short period of time, each for their own reasons. It had nothing to do with the house. In case you wondered, we know all of those people, and it was just circumstances. But so they did a lot inside, which you're the beneficiary of. But I always question the gravel too, because you can't really walk out there. Even for able-bodied people, it's not nice. So I think it looks beautiful. It's gonna be a wonderful.
Yeah, I love the backyard stuff.
Yeah.
I love the whole house.
It's a beautiful.
I love the
house.
store town.
Me too.
Can we make a
Why we're all
motion?
here.
We're all,
Yeah.
wishing we'd bought it.
I'm glad you do.
Okay.
And if I may ask, you were able to find the guidelines and standards on the city website?
Yeah, I did,
Okay,
and I found my house.
perfect. So you saw your house in the, like in the
Yes.
pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're all houses from
Yes.
in town, yeah.
Yes, everything, including the profile, you know, when we did the graphic guidelines, those are all profiles of actual Newcastle streets. Or montage of Newcastle homes.
I did notice that actually. Yeah,
I know, I believe it was Cynthia that had mentioned something about paint, because I kept looking through there, if there's a
No rules on
paint color that you're, there's
So,
no restriction at all.
unfortunately,
No, and
That's why
That's
we
why
have
the
purple
purple
houses.
houses, that's
Yes,
why
Okay,
they
and-
have.
all right.
We
And
just
then I
ask
said-
that you do your research and be appropriate, but we can't rule on them.
yeah, a lot of historic districts they do have regulations on colors. We do not, and interestingly enough, it's one of the questions that I think, at least I get asked. Someone says, it's like, wait, we don't have those, and you know.
when we did the update,
Yeah.
you know, I think that was one of the Harks said, and strange enough, this is where I probably differ from everybody. For me, color is actually something that's personal and evolves with fashion and easily reversible. So I always say the fact that one cannot, you know, mandate the colors is something I'm really comfortable with, both from a preservation philosophy and sort of from just a general preference. I would just say green with purple polka dots or something like that. I haven't seen anybody try that, but it is something that, you know, it's like there's a fashion color for outfits. I think now everything is beige. So for me, you know, I think that's more of a personal.
New England, some of the places make them paint them all white.
Yeah.
Then there's
Right.
more than one book about the painted ladies in San Francisco. I mean,
Yeah.
there- So.
And then Cape May
We're
at one
somewhere-
point had a
we're-
range of
we're
colors.
Somewhere in the middle, maybe,
Yeah.
you know, every once in a while, somebody's gonna paint the house purple. Every once in a while, somebody's gonna paint their door yellow. You know, people have sometimes they just.
Since the front of your house is federal, your color palette choices, if you wanted to remain historically accurate, are much more bold and interesting.
Okay,
Because they liked to experiment with lots of interesting and bright and very bold colors. So if you were trying to remain historic accuracy, you could do some research and your options are better than if you owned like a 1750s house.
okay.
I can't honestly say I remember this, but the people before the previous owner, and I don't wanna name names here, painted the shutters and the door colors that caused everyone in the neighborhood to begin to cry and gnash their teeth. So, you know, we'd rather see a bright color than the sort of, you know, institutional colors that they were. I can't remember Lucy repainted them or not.
They're
She
gray
just
right
did,
now.
Yeah.
no, she just
Yeah,
repainted
they're
the
just
doors.
awful. And,
Okay.
you know, so if you're gonna repaint them, feel free to talk to any of us. All of us live in the neighborhood and, we'd be happy to express an opinion
Okay.
informally. I've repainted our front door Tiffany blue, just so you know.
Okay.
Thankfully,
And
there's no
what's the-
shutters on the windows.
What's it, your house?
It's 18 East Third. Yeah, so,
The year?
oh, the year, I'm sorry, it's 1798. Yeah,
Okay.
so, and you can come and see it on a day in Old Newcastle if you'd like to. We're open next week. But I would just say that there's the approved colors and then there's the neighbors crying as they have their cocktails and thinking about it. So just try, if you change them to something pretty.
Okay.
I'd also say I'm working with Mike Connolly right now, who's the director of the Newcastle Historical Society, to bring in some just people in the preservation trades to talk about different methods of preservation. And one of the things that we're working on now is bringing in someone who specializes in traditional paints, like linseed oil paints and other you know, varnishes and things like that. So that probably won't be until September, but I think there will be some interesting things coming up. So,
Wait around and see.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, plus I think you probably want to live in the house for a little bit and let it
Mhm.
tell you what it
could be.
wants, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. But with this, I think I think everything looks good. Everything seems to conform with the guidelines and standards. So the only condition would be, a brick that is similar to, the Glengarry brick that we typically see, in town. And that, with that specific brick, that would need to just come back for a
Yeah,
tier
just
one
an
approval.
administrative, yeah.
Okay.
So to come back, I just have the contractor.
Yes, reach out to this, to Marika at the city and
Okay.
say, this is what we're using, and then
Okay.
she would just email it, and
Okay.
everything else is approved and he can move ahead. It's just the brick itself that they could just follow up with an email.
Okay.
And Layla can issue an approval for that, so you don't
Yeah.
have to come back here.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Would someone like to adopt or someone like to motion for this?
I make a motion to approve the application with the specification that the Shenandoah brick or Glengarry, the appropriate Glengarry brick are used as opposed to the one in the specs sheet in the application.
Okay, so as presented, with, the alternative brick that will be approved as a tier one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Nice
you.
package, thank you very much, it
Thank
makes
you.
it easy.
Can I just ask a question? The tree that I absolutely love is dead.
Yes.
I didn't know it was dead. Yeah.
No, when the building in back of you, that little, I don't know if it was a stable, but
Mhm.
it used to be part of that property and then it
Yeah, I
was
discovered that
subdivided.
after I got the house, yeah.
And when they built that retaining wall, I think the tree, it didn't
Might
make
have been over
it.
the
So it's been dead for a long time?
I think it,
Probably
not
can
for
help.
a long time. It was still, it was struggling, but then it just, Lucy wasn't sure if it was going to continue.
It was
to
by the
flower. We were
death, yeah,
watching
the
it,
roots maybe
yeah.
was the death.
Okay.
It's a beautiful tree. It's such a shame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to have a live tree. Can I remove the tree?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Yes.
there's no
If
restriction on
it's
that?
inside your property, you don't have to go.
Okay.
I
so-
would just let the city know when you have the tree company come out so they
Okay.
can block
careful.
off the
Yeah.
road because
Yeah.
some people
And
don't do
prepare
that.
to write a big check.
Will the tree commission
I
give?
know, I
another
have multiple trees that
replacement
are falling
tree?
on my house.
No,
Okay.
because
And
it's in
property
her,
line, I know.
yeah.
God,
It's in private
that
it's
way
in
area.
the garden.
No good.
The only thing is if it's like just an element at Dutch Elm, we might get involved because of the spread.
Yeah.
It looks like a redbud to me that from the picture.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tree. It's
Yeah,
such a shame.
I love the shape and so forth, but, okay. All right,
Okay.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you again for
Thank you.
coming in and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call the city office or if you want to.
Yeah, Tuesday, yes. Yep.
Okay,
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. I
Likewise.
have heard so many of just ask, apologize later, and I'm so glad I didn't do that.
No, that's,
No one's
I,
ever said that in this town, that's
No,
never
thank you.
been said in this
That's the-
town.
that was the first thing that was said to me when I moved, and we've talked about that many times here is, ask forgiveness rather than permission, and yeah, there's no need to do that.
A previous chair found that out.
Yeah, yes, our previous chair did find out about that, right after replacing all of her
Yeah,
windows. with that.
$26,000 of windows she had to rip up.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That's my thing.
But she did, yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
That's amusing. I didn't know that.
It's
It was at the,
expensive.
Yeah.
you know, this is actually criminal law. So you risk your money and your freedom also if you do something, not replacing some floorboards on the porch, but
But I mean, to her credit, they
she
did the
did,
right thing.
bought into, decided what was right, bought into it, donated the old windows to Habitat. There you go. It was a really wonderful.
But also,
good.
thank you for looking for the
Yes.
guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Your-
please preach to
Yeah.
others.
I will.
Yeah.
I will tell them that it was a wonderful experience and everybody
Thank
should go
you.
through it.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Welcome to town.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
But even the councilman had to pay double.
Well, as he should have.
To the third application.
And, so for the third application, we've got 411 Harmony Street, apartment 3, and just.
I think that's a mistake.
Is it?
Well, I think it's because that's the address.
There's apartments in. Anyway,
No,
his
I think-
application doesn't say apartment.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I'm reading off of the agenda. Maybe they deleted something and then
Yeah, I think it's just.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So, correction, 411 Harmony Street, no apartment. Matt Lovely replacing siding, remove door, install window. There is no applicant present for this, so if, Leila, if you'd like to give us a summary.
so I think pretty much there was some good graphic documentation. It's about the house.
It needs work.
To improve this. So pretty much they were talking about removing 2 sliding doors, and then putting in 2 casement windows. They were talking about replacing what's currently there with, hardy board siding, replacing all the trim with AZAC trim, and then putting back the brick appropriately after the tree removal, and add a base that they wanted to be in stone. So the removal of the siding and putting alternate material on the rear elevation, it's not visible from the right of way, so that conforms with the guidelines. The modification of the fenestrations on the rear elevation, that's not visible from the public right of way. That also meets HAC design guidelines and standards. The use of alternate trim materials like AZAC, that's also. And then the stone facing, all of that, since it's not visible from the public right of way, that meets the design guidelines and standards. When he did the additional review, the one thing that does not is they want to put vinyl windows. And vinyl windows are just not accepted anywhere, whether it's visible or not. So that was shared with
That had to be a
them.
typo, he knows better.
Yeah, but-
He tried, I think, because there's vinyl sliders there now.
Yes,
Right.
so.
But as we tell people, regardless of what is there, we have to go by the guidelines
We can fix
that are in
it.
place now.
Yeah, and it's not a typo because they put the cut sheet for the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
So you
Yeah.
told them, were they amenable to making them into wood windows?
I mean, we did the review, on the 25th, and I'm pretty sure that was shared with them by Marika. But we haven't heard about any change in the window. And the window, because it's not visible from the right, could be some kind of.
We wish to
alternate
table
material.
this until he has a chance to respond, or just,
We'll let him go with a group.
Can we
Also,
approve them with the
with
condition that he has
Condition he
to?
doesn't use the.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, that's something that,
Mhm.
yes, I mean, if that could be.
dare I ask a question about hardy board siding at this point?
Well, it's permitted and it's T111 falling apart in the back there
Yeah.
now.
And it's
I
not
mean,
visible
it's-
from a public right of way,
It's-
so it's acceptable
it's a
for the
step up.
guidelines.
Say that, you were talking over each other, so take your turns.
I said that because it's an elevation that's not visible from the public right of way, alternate materials such as hardy plank are approved. And alternate trim materials such as AZAC are approved because it's not visible from the public right of way, so that is.
And you were saying?
I'm saying that the existing conditions are falling apart.
Oh, yeah.
And that the hardy board would be a big step up. Okay.
Thank you.
And the stone facing too, I mean, it's all gonna be alternate, where he wants to put the stone.
And that's just under the windows
Yes.
across the back of the house.
Right.
So that's all fine.
It's a mess back there in that photograph.
Yeah,
So it's only the windows,
the material.
That do not conform. but if they were to choose another alternate material,
Mhm.
we would probably.
Yes.
Yeah, and Layla can approve that. We,
Yeah.
Tier one.
so I mean, we can,
How do we frame this?
We don't wanna get stuck with them just seeing it as an approval and then.
well, it's an approval with. It can be a
Conditional
partial,
approval.
it can be a conditional approval, so we can approve,
Or you can approve everything but the window, and the window has to be submitted as a separate application for a tier one review, if that kind of makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's a little Mickey Mouse. When we issue a permit for something like this, the permit, capital letters say the vinyl windows are not approved or whatever it is. It's approved, right on the first line, not, just doesn't go out approved, you know. That's the-
But then then I think what we should, when you do the review, is that the alternate window should be submitted
Right.
prior to the
You're
permit
right.
approval, yeah.
We'll make sure.
That's it,
They're
the window should be
properly
submitted prior to permit approval.
But I don't think they have to come back here because.
No, not to
No,
have,
no,
no,
no.
tier
So
one,
he can't get a permit until he has approvable windows.
Right.
yeah, and that's
So
a
we
tier
can
one.
approve apart from the windows, but he has to resolve that with both the tier one and with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
permit.
Yeah, we don't issue a building permit until we effectively instruct the tier one approval.
Yeah.
Madam Chair Lady, you want to form up
Go to Zolli's for dinner.
we can do, so
Oh,
we
sorry.
can move to approve this application as presented in terms of design, materials, except the vinyl window, as presented it's not an acceptable material, and needs to be resubmitted with a different alternate material, for tier one approval before a historic review certificate or building permit can be issued.
I'm good with that. Do you want me to make the motion or do you just make the motion?
I think I made the motion, if you'd like to second it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. That wasn't quite my smoothest motion. Just crafting.
That's okay, Kathy, we'll fix it.
Yeah, but that's a while, it'll feel better.
So, planning commission update?
Sure, it's quick. The last meeting, which was on April 28th, we had an extension to a conditionally approved site plan for a multifamily dwelling, apartment dwelling at 427 West 7th Street, which will be called The Battery. They've just struggled getting all their approvals and asked us for 6 months and we gave it to them. So that's all moving forward and I think it's gonna be an asset to the city, really. It's bringing more development to a part of the city that really needs to be perked up. You may be aware also, wasn't in this meeting, but there's a church being built across the street from this as well. So that part of the town is becoming quite nicely developed with positive things. So I think that's all good news. The second thing that we spent the most time on, of course, is the short-term rentals. In the meeting on that date, we reviewed language which was prepared by the city solicitor as a potential, like a starting point for how the code would be changed. There was lively discussion. There were a lot of people there. There were a lot of statements, both in person and in writing, regarding the topic. And I think we're coming to a reasonable solution, which I think was gratifying to a lot of people. There'll still be another public hearing where that material is reviewed and is available to be talked about by the public, and the documents will be available prior to the meeting for review. So we're making good progress on that. And that's what we did, and it took a long time.
Question, were the public comments and the submittals generally in opposition of short-term rentals?
In this meeting, yes, they were primarily in opposition. I think that the sense of certainly the people in the historic district is, they're happy to accept a certain amount of, short-term rental type activity, but it needs to be controlled and it needs to be restricted in quantity. And, the particular condition of interest which survived this round is that for every bedroom in such a construct, there has to be one off-street parking for the bedroom. And in some cases, you're allowed to have up to 3 bedrooms, but still one off-street parking. In the historic district, that's an immediately limiting factor. Where it's not so clear is that this will be opened up to the entire city. And right now, short-term rentals are only allowed they're called tourist homes in our code. They're only allowed in the historic commercial zone and the historic residential zone. But we do know, certainly from my own research, that there are people operating illegal Airbnbs in this city all over the place. So now we'll license them, we'll collect fees for them, we'll inspect them, have fire inspection, and all the other things you would expect for a situation like that. So all of that is contained in the code. And it's a great read if you'd like. I could be happy to share it with you all. It's on the website too.
Busy.
Thank you.
At least this ordinance will clarify. You have to, you're allowed to do anything that's not against the law, and that's where we run into a lot of problems with enforcement. If it doesn't say you can't do it, you probably can. So that's what we're trying to, that's what we're trying to clarify.
Yeah,
But it actually is better in the historic district because they have to have at least 2 off-street parking spaces, the way things are right now.
yeah.
And there, last I checked, we did almost the only one on Packard Alley.
On the Strand, yeah.
So that would,
Parking is tight in other areas of the city too, though, I mean.
oh, there's
it's-
plenty of places, we say that 5 unrelated adults can be a family. And we have spots out in Buttonwood where we got 5 giant pickup trucks and the boys are, the travelers are just all living in a big house and nothing good happens.
No, I can see that. Well, one of the things that didn't get resolved this time, but I'm gonna bring it up in the next meeting, is that we were gonna address group homes and things like that as well. So there's tourist homes and group homes are together in our code as it exists
They really
today.
can't be because it's a federal definition of group homes
Mhm.
and the feds have decided that 5 people in a group home and however many caretakers or a single family home,
Yeah.
period, paragraph, leave them alone. And
Yeah.
thank goodness there aren't too many.
There aren't too many, but they bother people nevertheless. But
Yes, I've got, in my neighborhood over in Fairfield, we actually had a big meeting one time and gosh, I was on the board and the state said that they had over 100 different kinds of group homes that they could have. We had 250 families or something in my neighborhood, and they said they'd like to put one of each in our neighborhood because it was perfect for, you can walk to the bank and you can walk to the grocery store and, and then all this other stuff, and goodness gracious, that, I can't imagine what it'd be like.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a neighborhood anymore.
Well, we need to address that too, and I had suggested that we hit them all at the same time, because you can still limit them, you can put rules on them even though they're allowed. Like, could say no more than X%, in a particular zone or what have you, so.
I totally disagree. I think that there's some federal zoning laws that are just draconian. Especially like the Religious Land Use Act. There's not. We just fight the best battle we can.
Okay,
And it's so far. But you could, for example, have a tent encampment in a cemetery. Right next to a church. And there is nothing you can do about it.
okay, we should probably not put
What
ideas
about a
in
group
people's
home?
heads.
Jeff, what about a group home becoming a public nuisance? Is that grounds to shut it down?
You can do that as long as you treat it the same as any other public nuisance. But not just overcrowding and can't limit the number of people in
And
the building.
I've heard some
That's the
stories
crazy
of some of the members of the group scaring the bejesus out of people.
We've got an artistic home in my family, in my neighborhood, and it's frightened some people, but it's not been.
I don't mean frightened
zero
because it's
problem.
different. I mean, it's frightened because someone comes and approaches you.
Yeah. I think that we're way off topic and we have to stick to topic in this meeting, so we probably should move on.
Open discussion.
But I will keep you all apprised, and maybe when the next language comes out, I'll make sure you all get a copy so you can see it. So that's it. We've been
Thank you.
busy.
Oh, I just have one thing, for signage in the historic district, the document that we made, that's still being reviewed, with the city, and I really don't have a date,
Okay.
as to when we'll have that back.
I'd like
I
to go
know
on
we're-
record that this has gone on way too long.
Well,
Way too long. We have people crying out. I'm speaking to you now, Jack. We have people crying out for guidance on what to do. This is a basic how to do signage in the historic district. It's been sitting around for 6 months. What is going on?
I do wanna say though, that something with signage is one of the things that we hear a lot, and most of the signage, I think, at least in the 3 years that I've been on this commission, I mean, there are many businesses that have opened up, and I don't think that we have seen
No.
a majority of that signage come before us.
And most of them break all the rules.
But even in the city, you know, if you look at a building permit application, not the historic review certificate application, but just the building permit, there is a section, you have to apply for a permit for signage anywhere in the city, correct?
Yes.
So I think that's also, and this is something that we've discussed, there is, of course, we want to provide something that could be handed to new businesses.
No.
New people opening up a business, we are a resource. But I think this is the other part where there is personal responsibility, and if you go in and it's your responsibility, it's all of our responsibility to check, you know, to follow up and make sure that we're doing everything that we should be doing. And if people are not filling out even the basic
Correct.
form that they're required to do, I mean, there's the opportunity to be told, by the way, you are in the historic commerce district. You need to apply to the Historic Area Commission for approval of conformance with the guidelines and standards. And that's just something I want to add, because that's something that I continue to hear, you know, we need to know what we are and aren't allowed to do. Well, the guidelines and standards exist and they're
Exist.
available for everyone.
Yeah.
And if you can't pick up the phone and call the office and ask, I mean, you know, if we're producing another document, if people aren't reading what's already there, if they're not filling out, if they're not asking, you know, for permission just with the building permit.
I would just
don't know
say
what to
almost
do.
every business on Delaware Street is in violation of code right now. And the code including the guidelines, which are included by reference in the code. So, and by the way, one of them in particular, and I'm gonna name it, the Twin Flames decal on their window, which was cited years ago now, is still up. That is absolutely against the rules. Why has that not been taken down? Help me. You're the one who cited it. Why is it not down? It looks
I would say
like,
that sometimes we have to listen to our attorneys.
I don't
Think-
buy that.
I'm sorry that you don't buy it, but we have to proceed on what's best legal advice we get.
So the attorney isn't supporting the Historic Area Commission
I
and the
didn't say
codified
that at all.
regulation.
I just said sometimes because you asked about a specific case.
No. Well, we'd like to have a report on that in the next meeting, because however pretty it may be.
I'm not sure that TAC has the authority to demand reports.
Oh, I think
about
we do.
enforcement.
I think the fact that it is
You can ask for anything.
unhistorical graphic, it's not that it isn't pretty or it isn't appropriate for a tattoo parlor. It has nothing to do with it. It's a complete violation of the guidelines. The guy knew it when he put it up. I don't care how much it cost him or what his financial condition is. It is out of acceptable parameters for the historic district. It needs to be removed.
There is a conversation that needs to be had. At this point, representatives from the Historic Area Commission, Leila and myself, we have not had any discussion regarding this with
Anthony?
the city. We've had conversations with Antonina, but we have not had conversations where legal is present. And that is something that needs to happen
It's, but,
on a
you know,
variety of things, and that's.
I think we need to get it on the record that these egregious violations, which have been cited, which are acknowledged as being out of compliance, just sit there for years. And it pollutes the downtown and it encourages other people to break the rules. It's wrong. We are either a historic preservation area or we are not. And the way it's going right now, we're not.
Because we don't have the support of the city.
We do not have the support to get
What I will
stuff
say
done.
is everything that's happening goes against everything that I learned in my urban planning classes in college. Like it's not, I mean, I took classes specifically in preservation planning and I would love to get one of my professors from the university to come in and just weigh on this because it's
Well, I think we
it's
just need,
very.
we can have, I think it's productive with Karen's been trying to organize, working with Antonia, this meeting with the new city, I mean, the ones that have taken over, because the guidelines were developed with feedback from the city solicitor at the time with the intent, and that was actually closely monitored because that was something that we really wanted to make sure that it was applicable. And we all know that sometimes there are interpretations, but we can, we can have that conversation in a forum when we set up that meeting. And then I do have all the records of all the conversation I had with the previous solicitor, where we had, we framed it that way. And came up with something that was enforceable, because that was always the thing, it's
But that
be
is,
approved by ordinance, it has to be, so.
Incidentally, we had David Ames over here a dozen times as we tried to work through this back in the,
Back in the whale day.
early nineties.
Mhm.
So
But yeah,
it's just never come to fruition. You have to have a will, and you have to have enough
Well,
money.
let's not overstate the problem, though. Let's not say that hack isn't, having a beneficial effect. We had 2 applicants tonight that we handled properly. We gave clear instructions to our third applicant. I mean, these are good operations of the Historic Area Commission. There are some gaps, okay? There's a couple things that need to be improved.
More than a couple.
More than a couple, it could be 12 to 17. I don't know the exact number. But we do good work here and we have more good work to do.
we do, and I also want to say that I have invited the city administrator to attend a hack meeting. I think it's really important that city officials understand what the work that we do here and how we, how we work through this process, how we interact with each other, how we interact with our applicants, and I do think it's a problem that has not happened yet. And so, I'm hoping she wasn't able to come to tonight's meeting. I'm hopeful that she will be present at that.
One councilman down in Portugal.
Yeah, there we go.
We just need to make it more entertaining.
And in general, I do also think that our elected officials, I mean, I think if we have seen over the past few months, we have an example of a member of council, now former members of the commission,
Complying.
where there's a little bit of a disconnect, and I'm not saying that to call anyone out, but but in a sense, I suppose I am. We need to get this under control. We need to make sure that everyone understands the process, so we're all working together, we're on the same team, and we can only work efficiently if everyone understands the process, so.
Including our people who are supposed to enforce it.
Our people, you mean the one-man land use department?
Well, I think it would also be helpful if we met with the new, code enforcer.
We started out saying he was a human blocking, tackling dummy, so, there we go.
I got it.
You're a treasure.
I'll get back up.
I'll speak for everyone on Third Street. Sir, you are a treasure to this town. You know where all the skeletons are buried, you know all the tricks of the trade. You bend over backwards to help people. Don't leave.
Was 77 Monday.
Yeah. Oh, Jan.
What are you doing for the 78th? Come on, you have nothing else, planned.
You
I
don't
will-
live a day over 75.
I will leave like that. Oh, it's a day over there. Is it? Yeah. Trust me, it worries me that we don't have resources and that I'm
Well,
afraid of what'll happen.
it worries me that the city council doesn't understand that these are resources that you can rent or share with other jurisdictions, and they let us sit without any support.
There's a lot of
for more than a
personality
year.
in this town. This town is not like other jurisdictions.
We're one of the largest historic districts in the country.
Oh, it is a national historic
We-
landmark.
we-
And they are
Yeah.
consistently
If you
not
don't
supported by the
realize the
city
game of
council.
whack-a-mole we play every day.
Oh, yeah.
I know, but our city council should have arranged for substitute support during that period, and that kind of support is available for rent or.
There's a
use.
lot of people
for
carrying
outsourcing.
business card that don't know what they need to know. And you don't
Thank
find out
you for
about
the
it.
lesson.
until
I'm an
the
expert
cascade
in
of problems
outsourcing.
develops.
Thank you for the lesson. I'm an expert in outsourcing. You can review my resume if you'd like.
You can review mine too. Can we conclude the meeting?
We can.
I got up at 2:00 this morning to catch a flight out of Dallas so I could be here with you this evening.
I'll be brief.
Oh,
Public comment.
Yes.
Bill Gross, 1301 13th Street. Commissioner Kevin, you used interesting wording when it came to our city fire marshal, code enforcer, everything. He knows where the skeletons are hidden. He's a good resource to open up caskets and inform you guys as to helping you along. You guys are doing an amazing job. So first thing in the morning, because I have copies of complaints and FOIA requests, I'm gonna put some in that I think will help Hack, where maybe you guys can't be so bold and brash to insist, request, demand. I can, and I will. I think every single business that opens up in the historic district, it should be mandatory that they at least do a consultation. I mean, forget coming here. If the consultation says you need to come before Hack, then they've been notified and it's on them. So none of these grievous mess ups and I can speak, that antique shop is horrendous. They don't take their banners, signs, flags, anything in at night. They've got sandwich boards all over the sidewalk. And I did not see any application to put tents up on the sidewalk at any time. So there's going to be more paperwork there. I guess that's basically it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys and how underutilized you guys are. And one thing that I amuse myself, but Cynthia Batty, I've got to commend you because not only is she focusing on the city, but she did bring up numerous times that she's taking into account, even though it's not the historic district, but when it came to planning that segment, she was on it and is being very inclusive. So I thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, would someone like to make a motion to,
I'd like to make a motion to conclude this month's meeting. Second.
all in favor?
All right.
Motion carries.
Thank you for the meeting.
I
I'm
will
just
say on a
tired.
positive note, this
Time changes.
next
and the first
Thursday.
day